We are still missing Thomas, but Thomas is coming. Perfect. Thomas, here is your seat. Thank you for joining us, and we will be in discussion with James, Thomas, and Daniel. You already know them from the first blog, and joining them, we are excited to welcome Markus, Janzen, Country Manager for Central and Eastern Europe at Porticus. Markus, welcome. Charmaine Bonello, Resident Academic Senior Lecturer at the University of Malta. Miroslav Klempar, Community Organizer at Awen Amenca. Miroslav, welcome. And Daniel, Slovakia Country Director of the Roma Education Fund. And our topic for today is personal and societal consequences and benefits of early years and why it's worth investing in ECD. I think lots have been already said during the presentation we had in the first part. And also for you, Slido is still working. I think we have 2 questions right now, 5 questions already. So if you feel that you really want to ask a question and also navigate the conversation and lead it, take the opportunity, take a picture of a Slido and go there, ask questions during the presentation. There will be like 15 minutes in the end to answer all the questions that had been answered. To open the discussion, I have a very simple question, and I want you to give me a very simple answer as well, because we also need to talk how everything what have been said could be also implemented. So if you were to make early childhood development a public priority, what powerful billboard message would you create to show its impact on society's future? So just picture the billboard that everyone can see. What would you write here? And everybody can express your ideas. James, can you start? It's difficult.
I would say investing in children is investing in our society.
Mm-hmm. Thomas? It's good, a small creative session.
Yeah, to say something else, I would say providing a place in a universal high-quality ECC should be a right of every child.
Mm-hmm. Right of every child.
In each nation.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would just use, I guess, James's billboard. Maybe, I'm not sure. I would test if it's investment in our society or our future. What is better, because I think it's also about the future, you know, and give people some hope, because we are in Czech Republic, we are kind of locked in this stagnating mindset, you know, nothing can be changed. You know, no can-do society, so I think it's good to communicate that it changes our future, this investment.
Mm-hmm. Changes our future. Markus, like billboard message. I know it's difficult, we are not marketers here, but just try.
It's especially difficult when all the good arguments have already been said. So, and I felt like maybe I would just write, let's just do it. And then see the positive effects of it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Hi, I'm repeating something I had written in a newspaper article in Malta. Children's needs cannot wait. We need to nurture young minds to have, you know, better futures for tomorrow. But also, it's very important that all this will uphold the rights of every child and all the families we are in touch with in every day of our lives.
The early childhood should start very early, even before the child is born. So, and it's not just matter of the parents, but also we have to highlight the social responsibility of the state and society.
Mm-hmm. As the best creative slogan from Stano.
No, so I think this was a very good question also to think about the messaging, right? And indeed, like we talk about early childhood development. No, my mom doesn't know what it is. Early childhood education and care, no, like that doesn't work, right? So we have to also find ways to simplify the language. I think if I really want to use it from the marketing perspective, I would probably pick someone likable, someone people in general like and has good social credit, and just say he did go to kindergarten. Be like him, or something like that.
Thank you, Stana. Yeah, this question was about messaging, and right now I will play a devil's advocate. I understand the arguments you brought that investing in early childhood development is like really crucial, but honestly, I'm not a person who is in this field, and I heard from the society, from the newspaper, that investments in a lot of things are important right now because we have a lot of problems, yeah? Investing in education, healthcare system, investing in innovations. So, James, I'm like really curious, why should I care about this investment? And if you can give us an example of how investing in early childhood development can lead to positive change, and it's really worth to understand it.
So I think shifting the way we talk about this a little bit to say that a lot of those pressures for where we invest have early childhood dimensions to them. So if we're talking about investing in schools, in healthcare, that in making sure part of that investment is focused in this particular period of human development gets us this both immediate and long-term kinds of impact. And so I think it's that there's an ability, whatever the hot issue of the day is in our politics, in our economic discussions, if we're able to talk about how there's a distinctive opportunity in that issue to anchor it in what's happening in these earliest years of life, I think is one of the ways, as opposed to this being set up as something different that needs other investment. But that where we're already investing, where we are committed, where our mandates are, if we're understanding the particularity of this period of human development and what we can get from that, and I think there's lots of evidence. So that's part of it. I think if we try and say early childhood is competing with education, with health, that's a losing argument. And I think we have to start to understand that it's a dimension of an investment strategy in each of those areas. I hope starts to get us in a place where then others can buy in and say, yeah, I can see how that are.
So what you're saying is to shift the narrative, how we talk about early childhood development as a contribution to other investments, that the other investment can be much worth for the society if we invest in early childhood development. Thomas, in your experience, how does quality early childhood development shape not only children's future education, but also their ability to contribution to society?
Well, I think I'm on. Well, I think we had a lot of examples already how these elements like higher attainment in education, more health, physical health too. All this what could be documented as at least potential outcomes of early childhood education would be arguments here. And I'm not sure whether it would help politicians and policymakers if we also, not only, but also translate the language in a language they understand. Talking, for example, about human capital, strange, listen to me saying that, but that all children and all families, independent what educational background or economic background they have, they are part of the human capital of a society. And if you give good conditions, environments for growing up, it helps the families and it helps the children. And this will contribute to a better society. And I don't know, there was one question about concrete examples. Is this here? Or
I wanted to ask if you can also bring an example. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. This morning in this press round, I had one example which I think is amazing. Yeah, you know, in Norway, every child has the right from 1 year of age. But still we see that there are groups who are not represented very early in kindergarten. And in one of the districts of Oslo city, the capital of Norway, there is a high proportion of immigrant parents from the Middle East and from Africa. And what the administration in this district did is that they brought together two databases. The one, the family structure of the inhabitants, and the other one, the registration in early childhood education, the name is kindergarten in our country. And they found out, yes, there are families where there are registered children under the age of 6 who do not appear in the lists of kindergarten. What they then did is they knocked on the door of all these families. It turned out that this was illegitimate, so it was not allowed by law, but luckily they didn't know that it was not allowed. So they did so and invited the mothers, was mainly mothers, to come to open kindergartens. Open kindergartens has almost disappeared now because every child has the right to get into kindergarten, but at this point of time, they still exist. So, and they said, you can be there, and of course you are with your child, and you meet also other mothers from your community. So the mothers did. They came to these open kindergartens, and they came again and again, and after 1 year, most of these children were enrolled in ordinary kindergartens. So to me, it's such a success history, but it is always dependent of the conditions. The basic, the fundamental ground for this is that you have to write for a place, so you can offer the families something, and then it was a good access to that. So a practical story, which worked very.
Thank you for this example, and also for the leverage that we can see really the concrete example, how it could work. Daniel, you brought us a lot of data today, but when talking to policymakers, from your experience, what data can be like really simple message to policymakers that really work, and they can hear what we would like to tell them about early child development, or maybe what stories were examples, what really works?
So first of all, maybe to answer more seriously your first question about the framing and promoting the topic, I come from the survey background. I did mostly like quantitative surveys for a long time, and if we have some, let's say, controversial policy which we are trying to advocate for or show to the public, sometimes we do surveys where we like ask about the support on investing on this. And we do experiment that the random subsamples have different framing of the issue. One could be the investing in our society or future. One can be the it's right of every kid, or don't take them the chance to succeed. One can be the the famous person, and we analyze what kind of framing increases the support. If you have the random subsamples, then the effect is created by the framing. And why I'm talking about this, like we can do this, I think we should do this to know what actually works, because I think we are all kind of guessing here, but it can be examined, it can be surveyed, and I think if we take seriously the task to advocate it, we should do this, and we should know that, for example, on educated and politicians, the argument of the investment works. On the general public, the argument of the, which James said, which you said about the right, and their chances to succeed is more effective. So I think we should do it if we take this seriously, the mission to promote it. And to answer your questions, I think the economic argument, that the cost-benefit thing and so on, works among people who kind of like believe it already or are open, and you can confirm them that it's the right way to go, and so on. If they are like very close-minded, the economy won't change their mind. It's at least my experience. But many people are open to it, are just unsure and so on. So you can change the minds with the economic argument. I think the problem of the economic argument in the Czech Republic is, and it's same with the preschools and segregated schools, that the small municipalities are responsible for these investments. And you are telling them, if you invest to the preschool, it will have huge impacts in, I don't know, unemployment, taxes, and so on. But these effects are not the effects only in the locality. So more or less the story you are telling them is, you will invest and it will have positive impacts to others, if I argue against it. And it's the same with the segregated schools. You will desegregate it, you will do right thing, and then it will have positive effects for whole society. And the people who are not open to the argument and don't believe it, they understand this logic, it will have general effects in 20 years and I will have like the direct local costs. So that's why the economic argument is not enough, I think, many times for the local politicians, you know. And you have to combine kind of these arguments of the moral and the human arguments, which everybody understands. I think personally I was, because we know all these stories when you are running, you know, to preschool and then you are going to your job from the preschool, you are solving the things that the preschool is like somehow bad, so you are changing it or something. So when James said that the good early education and preschools is like quality for all of us, you know, it kind of like, I think, speaks to at least parents, you know, because you can relate to that. So I think there should be many arguments for many target groups. Also, and this end of my speech, sometimes it's surprising. The politicians, they think that it's very unpopular policy. You know, we will help Roma, we will help the excluded people and so on. But the preschool policies or even free lunches, they have like a vast majority support in the public. You know, so you have to change their preconceptions about the unpopularity of the policies. You know, and then sometimes it helps. You know, because at least these. Maybe in the housing it's different and so on, but at least the policies which targets the kids, education and so on, they have big support.
Thank you, Daniel. And what I hear is also if data are enough here in this debate, or maybe if we really need to shift to a different space when we maybe use more empathy and listening in a different way of stories, and it could be way. Maybe I will turn to you, Stano, because you have experience with a lot of grassroots organization in the region, not only in the Czech Republic, but also Slovakia, Hungary. From your experience, what messaging and approaches have you found most effective in bringing ECD to policy agendas? You need to turn it on.
Hello? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so, sorry. I would like to follow up on something, on also something that Dan Prokop said about the benefits. And I think that's where we need to push on the state to be involved, because state benefits, right? Like if there is better income, if there are savings on healthcare or whatever, these are benefits to the state. So that's why it is always difficult when we say, oh, we should talk to the businesses. Yes, for businesses, it's also good to have a good environment where they can operate, but in the end, the state collects the money. So we need the state to invest. But indeed, like I fully agree, they think in 4-year terms, not the 20-year returns that we saw here. In terms of the like local grassroots engagement and how the communities manage to get everyone involved, I think one thing that we should all admit is that take any racists or whichever kind of bad people, they will still admit, okay, but it's children. Like, I don't like their parents. You know, their parents are lazy, don't want to work, whatever, right? But yes, I can agree, let's save the children. Let's do something for them. And that is something that is there. And it may be, in the end, also a tool how to like bring the communities together around actually the topic of young children, because maybe the adults will not talk to each other, but the kids will play together if we give them a chance. And I think in some localities, local NGOs demonstrated this. Also because very often I see some faces of friends and colleagues here who work in rural areas. In some villages, there is literally nothing. So if you open a community center, a play hub, any service for young children, it is actually the thing there, right? Like it becomes a community hub. It's where the parents go, where the parents bring their children, let the children play, and then they get a chance to talk to each other, right? let's use these opportunities more. And indeed, like to persuade the policymakers, we may need the hard data. But there is so much of everything else, like all kinds of benefits to the society, that people get together, that people talk to each other finally, all kinds of those soft things that eventually will also have an economic impact, but may be harder to demonstrate it now. I think that's also what we need to bring into the minds of policymakers, that the society will just be better.
Do I understand correctly? I'm not sure that also like talking to policymakers and wanted them to invest right now in something that is really long term and we see the benefits in a generation time means to activate their compassion towards children, and that could help?
Yeah, I do agree that compassion might be the right word, because indeed, like the economic arguments and everything, it's all there. But in the end, we need to persuade the individuals, right? We need them to basically say, yes, this is something I will fight for. Because even if you have the best Minister of Education, Health, Social Affairs, they still need to persuade the Minister of Finance, right? Like, it's still there.
Yes, sure.
There's a short-term benefit that Jakob mentioned that is, or Daniel, sorry, Daniel, re-election is a short-term benefit. And so, I mean, the joke is, you know, you have elections so that the roads get paved, right? So if in the community people see that, oh, you created a community center where our kids can go and we're happy, cut the ribbon, 2 years later, you don't have the return on the investment, you have an election. And the positive benefit, trying to create these kind of positive cycles of credibility, attention, respect, bringing those things into communities of benefit to the voters who are the parents, right? So I think there is actually a short-term opportunity here that connects to the longer-term investment benefit.
Thank you for this example. Markus, talking about the framework or framing this topic, you work for a foundation that supports early childhood development. What is like important, or what makes early child development attractive for foundations to invest in, and how can we frame it? And maybe also the question that arises here, if you are compassionate, and what maybe data you really need to invest in this topic?
Oh, that's a tough one, but it's probably similar to the discussion we already had. It's, you can have different approaches depending on what a foundation, funders, a board, whomever you talk to is interested in, whether you take the economic argument, whether you take the human rights argument. The compassion for us, I think at Porticus, it was also this idea that all children should be able, in an ideal world, to reach their full potential. Very much resonates to our idea of human dignity, and that we want to contribute to the flourishing of human dignity. So it's more from that angle, with all the data that we have as backup to it. So again, it comes down to the right message to the right audience, the right people involved. And for those who need publicity, yes, there's a publicity element to it very easily. For those who don't need publicity, you can do a lot of good with long-term good with investments in the here and now. I think that's an argument not to be underestimated. And one point that I should really not forget, why to invest in this topic, and just looking into that direction, just look to the left and to the right. Everybody, just look to your neighbors in the seats. You can work with these kind of people. Isn't that amazing? Who would not want to support your work? And who would not want to work in this community? So maybe that also helps, right? But there's also a downside to it, if I can add this, which is probably a challenge for political decision-making as much as for funders. Because you need some patience. You cannot come with ready-made solutions, but I think it's crucial to really understand the local context and all the drivers that are helping you or that are not helping you in achieving systemic change and long-term change. But if you're willing to go, to have some patience and some compassion and be flexible enough to go on a journey with people who really know what they do and they have the experience on the service delivery as much as on the policy influence, then I think a lot can be changed. And if I may take an image that was a guide for me for many of these situations, it's like when you came this morning to this place, you probably, if you don't know Prague, you probably just opened Google Maps and activated the GPS because you have a known destination, so you just, have a very easy way to find around. If you want to go across the country, you just use the GPS, you're done. But if you embark on a journey where you don't know the territory you're crossing and you have a vague idea of the point you want to arrive, but you have no idea about the journey in between. Imagine you would have to make the same journey from wherever you came from to Prague 200 or 300 years ago. You would prepare very differently. You would also have a different plan. You would act much more depending on what you encounter in the next step. And I think this kind of approach we need much more in funding situations, in supporting to, sorry, you're trying to cut me, that's fine. I will end it here.
No. Wasn't on purpose, really, I have something in my neck.
And I remember this is also jargon to walk the walk, but I think that's what we should do. That's the one thing you have to really convince funders that it's worth to do this, to put in this effort, because the benefit is so great and we heard enough about the benefits of it.
Thank you. You also brought me really creative idea when talking to donors and give them examples of why they should support any NGOs. And we say them, you need patience, it will take years, but you really want to work with me because these people are amazing. So I will try it if it works, and maybe it will be a new solution for getting funds for a lot of initiatives. Charmaine, we heard in the morning that nurturing care is at the core of ECD, and this is not just about preschooling, that it's really about nurturing care. Can you help us understand how providing this care doesn't just benefit children individually, but really creates ripple effects for public health and also social well-being?
I will try to avoid jargon and follow the rules. So I will put it a bit in context, okay? So this is a whole idea of nurturing care, which is crucial for what's happening, in societies and the importance of early childhood. So I'm going to invite you, I'm going to share a story with you, to invite you to imagine this boy, John, who was born perhaps in a neighborhood with limited resources and with all, the environments we were talking about earlier. And this John has, thanks to a nurturing care, high-quality education program and systemic approach, experiences in his early childhood, in the early childhood program, curiosity, wonder, responsive caregiving. He also has quality health services in his childhood. He also has proper nutrition. And so, along as he goes to school, this John grows into a boy in elementary school, grows into a boy who believes in himself. He has resilience. If he has challenges, he can overcome them. When he grows perhaps into a young teenager, this John, he will, be an active participant in society. Why? Because in his earlier setting, he had experience of someone who listens to him, of someone who responds to his needs, to his ideas, to his interests, to his inquiries, to his problem solving. So he is sort of successful in whatever he wants to reach in his goals. Not only, it doesn't stop there, it goes on, the ripple effect goes on, the wave of change goes on. When he becomes a parent, John, okay? He now wants to be a parent responsible for his child. He tries to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty he experienced. So this is how nurturing care, So it's not just, as we were saying before, it's not just the earlier setting, it's not just the health, it's everything when it comes together, to give that John the quality of life he deserves. We all say we want the good life, the happy life. What is the good life? What is happy life? So we want all our children, whatever their backgrounds, whatever their neighborhoods, to benefit from all this and to have this ripple effect in our societies. We need to have them, to provide this for them, for John and for all other children in all societies.
Thank you for the story.
Yes.
And what I hear is also important for many people in the society, that they feel they are not heard, that nobody listens to their needs, and we have in the society. So I understand what you want to tell us. Miroslav, the last question that is prepared separately to you is that I think it was yesterday that there is an anniversary of very important case, and we were talking about discrimination towards Roma and Roma children in the Czech Republic. And I think it was 17 years ago, if I count correctly. There was a decision, DH and others versus Czech Republic, and this is a landmark decision by the European Court of Human Rights, recognizing the discrimination faced by Roma children in segregated schools in the Czech Republic. And you were one of the leading figures here in these initiatives. Can you share how this ruling has influenced your advocacy work? And also I'm interested, how do you see the community-driven efforts that contribute to really educational quality for Roma children?
Okay, so let's shift it from jargon to, because not everyone is familiar what the DH case is. We were speaking about, we heard many times the economic reasons, economic reasoning, why the early childhood the development is important. I understand that. We have to convince the governments, you know, to make changes or to make something. But it's not just this economic reason, because the state is not just some economic you know, they have not just economic agenda. They have also something which we don't talk about, is the social responsibility. So the state has the social responsibility about every citizen, including the minorities and the majority. And the DH case is actually about this, about the failing provide this, you know, protection of the minority in the country. It means actually that the Czech Republic was found guilty for discriminating the Roma children, not providing actually the child's right for education, or actually they were not discriminating like directly, but it was actually indirect discrimination. They were not protecting enough the children. So, hello, yeah. It started actually, we started in 2013, which was the 6 years after this decision. And it started with implementing the community organizing methodology from Harvard University, which was taught by Marshall Gans. One of our colleagues studied actually, and we were thinking how we can implement this methodology in Czech Republic. And we decided that we have to follow on this DH case, actually on the implementation of this judgment. So we started in 2013, and we decided actually to organize the community and make the change from the bottom, from the grassroots. So we said actually, we were thinking that we will convince the parents actually to enroll children not in the segregated schools, but in the mainstream quality schools. The problem was with the word quality, because the quality is still not measured. Even we have this you know, the data from all different institutions, but this is not the right picture of the quality of each school. So we still have actually the demand for this quality data. So we made our own criteria for the quality, which was actually the continuation of the children in the further education, secondary, and actually the results were shocking. We realized that these segregation schools, half of the children even don't continue in the secondary education, and another half is applying for these vocational trainings. Even in Czech Republic, it's a rarity that Czech Republic introduced some E-type vocational trainings for 2 years for instance, labor in construction, in industrial cleaner, and something like that. So this other half actually started in this. So, and it was huge, the differences between the mainstream schools and segregated schools. So we were working with the parents, and they were enrolling children to mainstream schools, and it was successful in one city district. We were successful that we actually closed the segregated schools because they had not enough children enrolled. It got attention of the government, municipalities, you know, and other institutions. So actually this small effort on the small group of parents actually made a huge change. I think that this change was maybe bigger, or the impact was even bigger than actual DH case. Now we are actually in the stadium when the Czech Republic government introduced a plan for the desegregation, and we are involved in that the preparation of this plan, but the participation of the Roma, of the parents, of the Roma organization is still not sufficient as it should be. So actually, to end up, my thought is I want to actually encourage the government, municipalities, founder of the schools actually to involve Roma parents in that, and not making the decision on the Roma without the Roma. And also it will be, I know it will be another panel talking about the parents' responsibility. We know that this is also important, and what is actually the early childhood, what is the early, when we should start. I hope that this will be discussed in the other panels. And after my dream is actually after this discrimination will be ended and segregation, we will have time actually to concentrate on the parents' responsibilities.
Thank you, Mikko.
So actually the responsibility of the state will be fulfilled, so we can concentrate on the parents' responsibility.
Thank you for pointing out that the state has also the social responsibility, and we can use this as a leverage, and also how really community-driven efforts can create a change and use some legal instruments that we already have, and on the way also create change in the communities, which I think is a really great example. Charmaine, you would like to add something?
Yes, may I build a bit on that? Because actually I wanted to share two stories because I thought we will have another question, but I would like to really quickly share this. Speaking about dreams, speaking about change, 5 years ago, I had this dream, you know, to document, but what's happening. We are talking about a lot of change, you know, and that we wish to have investment and funding from up above. But I wanted to document change that's happening on the ground. So 5 years ago, I had this idea in my context in Malta, which we have to see the history, you know. Malta was colonized for 200 years by the British rule. So till today, we have a legacy in our education system, even in the early years, of a very traditional approach. In the 21st century, this was changed by new policy reform promoting a child-centered approach, responsive caregiving in early childhood. So our educators, our professionals in the early years with the services 0 to 3 mushrooming at a fast rate with our free childcare system, and the 3 to 5 years with high rate of attendance, all these educators were struggling, you know, in such a context. Imagine these educators, 20 years or 10 years, you know, working with children with a prescriptive approach, with a traditional approach, not trained in responsive caregiving, limited training opportunities. But now they were told that they had to do this child-centered approach. And to cut the long story short, I really highly believe that we have to document and we have to share these stories. So soon a book will be published, next month actually, it already can be ordered. It's the stories of 7 educators from Malta who work from children from birth till 7 years. So each chapter is a story from each educator, one that works with the 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. There's a poster outside there. This is my What do these stories of hope reveal? They have the educators' voices there who, against all odds, in an island where, there is, improvement and there is work going on, and it is on the agenda, perhaps not as high as we wish, but you can see their will, their resilience, what they do every day to change. So it speaks about the transformation, the pedagogical and professional transformation of these 7 educators, these 7 change makers, and what they do on the ground every day to move from a traditional approach, so like teaching children with a prescriptive curriculum, to listening to children's voices, to developing curriculum with children, to realizing children's rights in practice every single day. And I think if we want change, like these educators are telling us, they tell us it can be done if you believe in it. So the more we share stories, the more we have spaces like this and places to grow, I think, yes, that will slowly, but yes, it is possible from the ground as well, from the ground up.
I think it's also like really important at the conferences like this that you also share the stories when you will be speaking during the lunch, because stories create the narrative that we can use. So thank you for this story. Daniel, would you like to add something very shortly to this?
Just want to add to Miroslav Klempar, because we did some research for the desegregation strategy, and Miroslav had great success in Ostrava Poruba. One thing I want to stress, in many cases, it's systematic discrimination of Roma kids. There are cities who are designing catchment areas to put Roma kids and poor kids to schools with special needs. There are cities who are sending the kids, suggesting Roma kids to go to the preparation classes, which are already in special, connected with the special schools for the kids with the special needs. There are cities where the directors of schools wanted to change it. Then they were very successful, they were popular, then they won the tenders and the procurements for the another years, and in the Czech system, the municipality can ignore the procurement and choose whoever they want. So they didn't choose this one, they just choose one which is like, their friend from the political party. What I want to say, we have to change this in this because there is like so many ways how to systematically segregate Roma kids, that we have to change these systematic things, and the government should change them. And it shouldn't just, the grassroots is very important, but they should change these systematic things, and don't be afraid of it, and tell the municipalities, if you don't change it, if you don't change these catchment areas, we will give you less money for the education, and you will be, your voters won't like it, Your voters from the majority won't like that, and the government should be much more brave in doing this. Mm-hmm. And because I don't want this segregation strategy just end up with nice words. We have to be honest that it still exists in Czech Republic.
Thank you. I understand that the government should do something, the policymakers should do something, but what I hear from you right now, we have research, we have data, we have also economic evidence of that this is really worth and it will help. We also have the stories, and you also have the stories, and I think you are working to make this happen. Why does the society don't act or mobilize for this? What are the reasons or maybe the root causes of why this is not still a topic? Maybe very briefly before we go to another question from the audience, but I'm super interested, what's your opinion? Why this is not happening? If we have the data, we have the research, we have this conference, we have the stories, why? Anybody, it's just to all of you, and you can brainstorm and follow up to each other.
Okay, in the view and experience in Czech Republic, one research found out that 80% of people doesn't want Roma as the neighbor. And if you project this approach or kind of thinking on the education, then you can understand how the white fly coming up, and how this mechanism work, So actually, the element which is hard actually to approach, and the change which is hard actually to make is actually the thinking of the people, So actually, we can't actually push someone to love Roma, when he's this approach. And then And then also we are coming back to education is actually lack of information about the Roma, lack of education of the Roma. So actually the children, when they grow, that they are actually, they hear only these stories from media, you know, and stories from parents and that. So this has to be changed, and then we can expect some change. So actually the answer is simple, you know, is actually the mindset of the people, which is actually built on the lack of information or even on the false or not appropriate information.
Talking about Roma, I understand that the underlying problem is also the racism and how we see Roma generally. So investing into
and
early
also it works the opposite. You know, the reason why Roma children from 3 years, 4 years, what we have not enough Roma children in the kindergarten could be again the mindset of the Roma people who have experience with the hostile environments, you know, and treatments. So they are rather keeping the child home because it's not mandatory. So this could work actually the opposite way.
Yeah, but to not have the conversation only about Roma children, maybe also like in a couple of minutes, like really have the broader perspective of early child development as a topic in a society.
Children don't vote.
It's a big shift if children would vote.
No, so I think the demands on our systems often are not focused on kids. There's also something in the research that we do around communicating the science. There's a tremendous challenge of what is called the family bubble, which in many of our societies, our assumption is it is the family's responsibility to raise kids. Good families produce good kids, bad families produce bad kids. And so there's not a sense that this is a societal responsibility and that these investments we're making are in that. Second, people in positions of authority, particularly men, I'm going to own this one, don't think as parents. Fascinating. So the former mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, started free universal pre-kindergarten in New York City. We had him at our center. He was doing a fellowship at Harvard after he finished his term. And we said, what started you thinking about this? And he said, honestly, my wife and I were grappling with how bloody expensive daycare was for our kids. And we said, oh my God, if this is almost impossible for us to manage as highly educated, successful, upper middle class parents, how's anybody else doing this? And that's what brought him, as a policymaker, into the space. So I think often we dissociate the sense of that we're all in these kinds of roles, multiple roles. And so how do we bring that caregiving economy front and center in the way we make political decisions?
Thank you for interesting insights. Anybody like to add? Like very shortly, please, because we have also some questions from the audience.
May I have a little comment? So I fully agree. And I think we saw this in historically also in the Scandinavian countries, where in the 70s, there were middle-aged and old men in the municipalities. And they said, why do we need kindergartens? Couldn't be the wives at home with the children. And if you would say something like that today, you will get into prison. But at this time, it was a natural argument in the municipality, in the political. So I think we were talking a lot about economy, and I think the human right and social responsibility thinking has to be, as you said, for the non-profit organizations too, has to be used as an argument. And if I'm allowed a little joke, maybe think about your last diagram of the GDP investment in early childhood education. Maybe we should start with something like politician blaming. So the Hungarians said, what? The Slovakians invest more in GDP and we? That can be happened. So we start to pass them. And then the Czechs get afraid because they are coming closer. I do not know how the ranking there. So they come closer. What does this mean? This means the OECD average is increasing. The OECD average is increasing, then all the countries on the left-hand side, which basically are the Nordic countries, say, oh, average is coming closer. We have to invest more than our 1.5, which again means that your countries are a little bit behind and have to fight to get more. Just a policy, positive competition, But what is the important thing is, I think the global development goals from the United Nations, the right of the children, they are not talking about the Roma and non-Roma children, they are talking about children. And all children, this is one of our policies in the Scandinavian countries, I think all children are our children. Maybe to try to support such attitudes and also the understanding in the political circles is a more positive approach to increasing interest in these circles too. Thank you.
It could be also a nice billboard message from the beginning that all children are our children. Can I ask you to show the slide how many questions we have and what questions we have, and you also voted. So, because we have like 5 minutes for the questions, just try to be like really sharp in thinking. I'll ask the question. I suggest if it's yes or no question, maybe say yes and explain very shortly, and then we will have time to discuss during the break. So, first question, by knowing these numbers of positive economic impact, why politicians are not acting upon them? I think we already discussed it, so we can go to another question. How to motivate, what's happening? Oh, I see. How to motivate families, families or mothers? So families and mothers from societal groups that culturally do not trust institutional ECEC to place their children there earlier. Any other idea, maybe other?
If I may, apart from lecturing at the University of Malta, 8 years ago I also co-founded the Early Childhood Development Association of Malta, which is an NGO. And this is an association where every month, after COVID, we're doing them online now, the events. So they're open for everyone. We do a lot of work. So every year we have 9 sessions for families and parents and educators who work with children 0 to 7. So even mothers are invited, to hear the good news, to learn about early childhood, to learn about what childcare educators and kindergarten educators are doing in the childcare centers. For educators, like in Malta, who need, we need to professionalize the workforce as well in Malta, because, okay, we have high investment, we have free childcare for all the working mothers in Malta, and also those who are studying, mothers and fathers, whoever. So it's free childcare. But opening such free childcare, investing in this, and not investing in policy infrastructure for high quality early years, there is this disequilibrium, So we need to be careful when we invest and then what happens after. Okay, so if we invest and then we do not sustain the quality, if you read the stories of the educators in the book, you will see the challenges they encounter because of this. Because they did not have the right monitoring and support. The parents as well, they're not understanding what emergent curriculum is, that it is child-centered, that it is children's rights in practice, that it is nurturing care. So this is just one example of what we're trying to do, again, from the ground up, when you don't have it from above.
Maybe also Miroslav and Stanislav, I think this would be like really interesting question for you to answer.
Just shortly to convince actually the parents, the mothers, that their child is in the safe environment. And also that the teachers have the high expectation for that child. It's not just, providing services, but also having the high expectation for the child.
So, and what about the motivation, the question? So how can we motivate it? Or it's not just about the motivation, it's about also the institutions.
Yeah, and also the motivate actually the families that showing the benefit. We are now trying actually to find the economic reasons, but we have to do the same for the parents. Find some good reasons why they should place their child in the education.
Someone would like to add a comment?
Yeah, I will just add something to this. I think this is like in the language when education is discussed, education of Roma children, it's often about taking the children out of the environment. You know, like it's like it's in the language of like taking the children out of environment. In a way, it's basically taking the children away from these families and the mothers, right? Which is not acceptable. The school should be part of the community, including the mothers, including the families, including the fathers, of course. So I think that's quite crucial. From very early age, when it comes to Roma, we tell the Roma, and I experienced it myself, you can either be successful or you can be Roma. This has to be destroyed. We have to get rid of this. We cannot push the children to stop speaking Romani language because that's not success. Success is speaking the formal language of the country. Thank you. So yeah, like how to motivate the families, just get rid of the bad language of removing the children from somewhere, taking them out of something. No, this is their environment. Accept it and work in that environment.
Thank you, Stano. I think the time is over, right? And we need to finish the conversation. There are more questions. So I think there are 2 questions on done. Just I ask, can we have like, yeah, okay, we can have like 5 minutes. Perfect. Then there are 2 questions to you. First one, if you can elaborate deeper, very shortly, yeah, about that argument that programs for age 0 to 2 are less effective than preschool.
So it's kind of counterintuitive too, because it doesn't fit the Heckman curve, but I think it's from very specific meta study by Melhuis, and I think the reason is that at the young age like that, you cannot just have kind of normal preschool, because it's very much dependent on the family, what's going on in the family, on health, on nutrition, on many things which I think James described. And I think many of these programs which they meta-studied in the Melhuis study, they were not focused on this. So it's like much harder to do effective program under age 2 because you have to focus on other things. And if you are talking about kind of standard preschool programs, they don't have, they're not coping with these things so far. So that's my explanation of this result in Melhuis. Maybe James and Thomas can elaborate on this, and that's why I think you can see like the big variance in these results in these programs in young age. You know how they dependent on how they were designed and so on. And the second one, if I should elaborate,
sure.
That will be more. I think direct answer. Odklady is the when you postpone the, I guess Czechs knows, but when you postpone the attendance to elementary school, we have like 25% of kids have this postponement, And if you analyze it on the regional level, the very comparable regions, if they have high postponements, they have bigger dropouts. You would say it's the other way around, If they postpone a lot of kids, they reduce the dropouts. But in the reality, the postponing going to elementary school, it's more like indirect measure of that they are not prepared for the kids, that they are not doing enough in the elementary schools to accept the kids. They are using the postponements, and because they are not doing enough in the elementary schools, they also have the high dropouts. So it's not like a causal, direct relationship, but it tells you something about the region, that they are not prepared for the kids, and it results in the dropouts. So that's how I interpret it.
The question is not, are the child prepared to school, but are the schools prepared to the child? So it's so simple as that.
Okay. No more question. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I was just confused because there were other questions, but if you have the question that was written here, there are the panelists. I think you can ask them. They will be here during the lunch, so approach them and you can ask whatever you want to know, and you are here the whole day, right? So thank you for your insights, for your ideas, and for your work, and thank you for being with us today.